Welcome back to Tied Up with the Morgans. Today I want to show you how I'm going to prepare a site for a native plant garden. I showed you before how I did it with cardboard. Today we're going to be using herbicide, and we will be using clethodim, not glyphosate. The reason is the spot we're going to spray, there are a lot of native sedges and rushes. Part of that is because it's a very wet site, so it doesn't these non-native grasses don't really like a wet spot. Right now it's dry. That's because it's been in the 90s and we haven't had rain in a little bit. But 75% of the year it's wet. So let's take a look. I sprayed off the areas. In there will be native plants. I left this open because there's a trail up in the woods that way, and so we'll be able to walk around the planting up into the woods. And I left this spot where the side-by-side is open because, well, first this is, again, so native plants, trails. I want walking trails to access the trails in the woods, and also just to be able to take a look at everything, to be able to walk through. So we have a trail here because there is a trail up there in the woods. So that way the side-by-side or the truck, if I ever needed to get up there, can fit. And same thing here, truck or side-by-side could fit through here. And all of this will be converted. So I'm getting rid of this because we do nothing with it. It's probably hard to tell from the video, but this is it's a big hill. And like I said, it's wet the majority of the year. I just 2 days ago cut all of the grass because you want to get it nice and short before you spray it. I then raked up a lot of the grass, not all of it, but you would not believe I had over 20 piles of this from all of the different sites I had to mow. I was going to say, it was weird mowing it. I didn't like to do it because it was beautiful established sedges. The reason I didn't just leave that site is because there's still lots of non-native grasses. There's Japanese stilt grass in there. There's some things I wanted to get rid of now and do it right. So as I was going through with the mower, I was going very slow, and it was amazing. There were thousands of insects taking off, every kind of moth. There were moles. There was all this life in there, and that just kind of, it was bittersweet, right? Because I felt bad getting rid of all the, where they've called home, right? But it's just like managing a forest. Sometimes you have to cut trees down to manage a forest. Sometimes you have to kill trees. Sometimes you have to do things for the greater good. And that's the same thing here. So, I didn't want to do that, but I went slow, gave them time to get out. And I know that in a year, 2, 3, it's going to be better than I ever imagined. So you kind of just have to weigh those pros and cons. So I think I told you, this is a bigger hill than it looks, and we do nothing with it. And then again, over there, I'm not getting rid of that yard yet. Maybe one day. In here, these are all natives in here. For the most part, again, I need to treat this with clethodim. This was still just too wet to mow, so I did not get to this part yet. That's the next project. But anyways, in here will all be native plants. We'll have a trail. Well, no longer a trail. Over here's, the yard, and there's a trail in the woods there. So I wanted to be able to drive this side by side through all of this. But as you can tell, it's a decent sized area. And so we don't use it, and we want to make it beautiful. So I found a perfect seed mix, I think, but we're not going to be doing that in this video. This video is just going to all be on the prep of the site. So I marked off, very perfect as you can tell. No, not perfect. That's all right. Just an idea. And I didn't even need to do that, but I just didn't want to waste any spray, and I kind of wanted to make sure that my sprays are in the area, not killing anything down here, because this will be a mowed path. Another reason I put this path here, I was originally thinking I would have it on the high end so I could be up above it, but I can just walk up through the woods there. It's no big deal. I can't drive up there. And the reason is, like I said, 75% of the year this is wet. If I try driving that side-by-side up here, you just slide down the hill. And I don't want to have an established planting with a trail at the top and trying to mow that trail and then just slide down and destroy everything. So I did it here at the bottom. That way we won't be sliding, and this will be the best spot. It would be cool to see how these plants do. The seed mix, we'll dive into that in another video when I show you the planting. Right now it's just the prep, but the seed mix I think was going to love this spot. So I am using clethodim, not glyphosate, and that's because it is a grass selective herbicide, and that's going to kill the non-native grasses. It would kill any native grasses if there were, which I think there might be some deer tongue grass in there, maybe bottle brush, which I really like. But again, that pros and cons, you have to weigh that, and I want to keep all of those native sedges. There's multiple species. There's native rushes, which are really cool, and I want all of those things to stay. So if I were to use glyphosate, I kill everything, and I have a really fresh slate. Whereas if I use clethodim, you're more selective because it's a grass selective herbicide. So that's why I'm using clethodim, and I'm in the middle of getting that ready now. What we'll be using is a backpack sprayer. Let's take a look. So I'm not going to go too in depth on the spraying, and the reason is I don't want to give any bad info. I'm not a professional. I have taken classes by professionals, multiple classes over, a few days on herbicide application. The one class I took, it was kind of funny. I was the only person there, it was through the Penn State Extension, that did not have to be there because of a job. I was interested in this stuff, and I signed up, I paid, did all of this stuff, and everyone there had to sign, and or had to get signed off if they were there for their employer, except me. I just have an interest in this stuff, so everyone thought I was crazy. They had to be there, and I wanted to be there. But again, I'm still not a professional, so I don't want to give any bad info. I don't want anyone to do anything wrong. Herbicides are no joke. It's not just like, it's a poison. So you need to have proper PPE. You need to read the label. If you take anything from this video and you're using herbicide, read the label. Don't just, this looks good, pour it in there. You stick to what the label says, the exact measurements. That is the best advice I could give you. And that's what I do myself, just because I want to do this right. So the one thing I like, normally I use glyphosate. And when I do that, I fence the area off for 2 weeks. I think that's overkill. I believe they say it's like safe after 24 hours. I don't trust that. So I always will cut the grass first, unless I'm, killing invasives, right? Like brush, stuff like that. But if I'm doing like a yard, I mow it. Then I will spray it, and I like to fence it off, like I said, for 24 hours. I don't want me, the chickens, the kids especially, dog, goats, anything going in there. So I fence it off, and then I will rotate. I don't have enough fence, so like a spot like this, I wouldn't have enough fence for it all, so I would do it in sections. And then like every 2 weeks, I'm moving that fence. So with the clethodim, it's not as dangerous because it's a grass selective herbicide. However, I still am using caution. But we are not going to be here the next couple days, so it seemed like a perfect time. No goats, chickens, anything will be there. And it's going to only target grasses. I still wouldn't want it on my face or on my kids or anything like that, but it will be safe by the time we're here again. So we're going to treat this PPE. I wear a mask, I wear goggles, I wear long sleeves, long pants, rubber boots, rubber gloves, and that way it's all easy to wash. So I use those things, and I like to wear a hood. I'm just fully covered. I don't want any bit of my skin being protected. With the clethodim, I'm not as worried, but still follow all of those precautions. And the most important thing, I would think, is not spraying on a windy day. Right now, it's not windy at all. So that's perfect. You don't want to be spraying in the wind and having that travel somewhere or on yourself. So those are some things to keep in mind. This is the sprayer I have. I got this off Facebook Marketplace. It had never been used. And so, yeah, anyways, in the past I had glyphosate in here. I did the triple wash, which they say is good, but I actually also used a tank cleaner just to be sure, because like I said, glyphosate and clethodim are very different. And I didn't want the clethodim I didn't want them mixed. I don't want to be killing off stuff. I have another backpack sprayer that needs cleaned as well. I was planning originally to make it dedicated only to clethodim. Didn't happen, and so here we are. My mistake. So now I'm going to spray, and then we'll be done for tonight. Ideally, you want to treat, if you're using herbicide, glyphosate, clethodim, whatever you're using, you want to do it over a growing season. So best case scenario would have been for me to start this, I would say in May. Do a spray in May, and then every 6 to 8 weeks, do another spray. Really 3 to 4 sprays from spring to fall is best. That way you're just going to exhaust that seed bank, because what's going to happen is new growth will come up in 6 weeks or so, and you'll hit it then. I'm not too worried, like I said, because this site was becoming dominated. The native sedges were out competing the non-natives. And so maybe if I just left it go over years, it would maybe sort itself out. I think it never happened before because it was always mowed. Now that I have let it establish, these sedges are very strong, mature is what I'm trying to say. And they have strong roots. So sedges can be cut. They've become adapted to handle grazing, you know, as if like animals were grazing it, a mower, stuff like that. So they are very resilient. I'm not worried about them dying off from being cut. And they're just going to come back stronger next year, especially when I remove the non-native grasses. So that's I think it. So you want to do, okay, so I said like you want to spray every 6 to 8 weeks ish. So it's July right now. I'm going to spray again in September. So that's only 2 sprays this year, but I think we'll be okay because of those reasons I just mentioned about having the natives outcompete the non-natives. And then we will sow after the first hard freeze. So sometime around Thanksgiving, likely. Maybe, you know, December, we will sow the seed. And that will be a separate video. But for now, that is meadow prep. So in a previous video, we talked about how to do this with cardboard. Today, we're talking about how to do it with herbicide. I'm not going to show how to do it with plastic. I mean, this is all pretty straightforward. No rocket science here. I'm not doing it with plastic. Plastic does work. I'm not doing solarization. And a sod cutter, I'm not doing that either. I don't have one, don't want to rent one, they're heavy. I don't want to strip it all off. So those are the 4: cardboard, sod removal, spraying, or solarization. There's probably others, but those are the 4 that come to mind. And I've showed you one, we're doing the other one now. So I'm gonna go spray this, and I think that'll be it as far as prepping the site for this video. Next video, I'll kind of give you an update of when everything is killed, show you what that looks like. All right, so next up, we will see what this looks like in 2 weeks. I'm gonna go get ready to spray, and we'll check in like 2 weeks. Everything should be done, or should be dead. The bad things should be dead, and we'll see where we're at. All right, it's been 2 weeks. It's been 15 days, actually. The lawn behind me doesn't look so brown, right? Let's take a closer look. Okay, so when we look here, you can see there is a lot of brown. There's also some green though, but I mean, you compare to the rest of my yard, like in here, different non-native grasses. There's clover, which clover's in here as well because clover's not a grass. And that's what I was saying, is that it's not gonna kill everything, right? Like glyphosate would. If it was glyphosate, this would all be brown. So I'm still gonna have different non-native clovers, which is like a legume. I'm gonna have, I don't even know what that is. I have a book. I'll put a link in there in the description. I should just go grab it and just show you this book that is king when it comes to identifying stuff like this. Because like when things are small, it's really hard to identify, especially if you're like working on a project, something like this, and like maybe now would be a great time to spot treat things if you wanted to do that with like glyphosate. So the non-grasses, if I had some invasive plants that maybe I wanted to treat, right now is a great time. So you could just get like a little Zep spray bottle, and you could just come through here and be like, you know, I don't want clover, and just hit that, because you can be a lot more selective because there's so much brown. Okay, so you get a lot of things. Like, I'm not sure what this that looks like a thistle. No good, don't want it. But I'm not all that worried about stuff like that, because these sedges, for one, are already very well established. They have a strong root system. And I mean, over here, there's a lot more sedges. Really, this whole part of the yard should be next. I was planning to do it this time, but we might have there was another project that we might have put a road through here. Anyways, I don't think we're doing that. So I didn't want to invest in a lot of seed and then kill that off. But you can see the sedges in here are crazy. And those same sedges are coming up through here. They have a very healthy root system, but you see all the grasses are killed. So it hasn't rained. This is gonna, be really wet when it does. But I'm getting all over the place. Anyways, here's a little update on what it looks like. And you can see all of the sedges coming up. And it would be a great time to spot treat anything you don't want. And a lot of these are hard to identify at that young age. So I will go grab that book and show you that book, because it's king to identifying these young plants. And so I had sprayed a lot of this stiltgrass too. It takes a little longer. Actually, looks like I went in here and it looks like this is working pretty well. So that stiltgrass is all dying off too. But yeah, so I'm happy with it. Right here, this is Spirea tomentosa. Maybe I've already showed this in a video, but I just love the color of this. Steeplebush is the common name. And here's a swamp white oak I had planted this year. I grew from seed last year. But yeah, you can see it's very brown, especially compared to like right here. This spot I have just allowed to grow up. I've been collecting seed from a lot of different species in here that I want. So you can see there's really not much non-native grass in here. These are mostly all native sedges, which is what this will be like. But I just wanted to eliminate any competition, and I want to add to it. So this is great. Having this organic material here, like these dead grasses, is a great seed, a great place to sow into. It'll hold that seed well, and the seed will kind of stay in place. It's almost like a straw, right? So we'll plant here in the next month or so. So I mentioned I use clethodim. I don't know. I think I was saying that it's been 2 weeks, that I'm not going to really give specifics, but I thought about it. I'm still not giving. Read the label is the best thing you can do. But I used 2.5 ounces of clethodim per 4 gallons of water. And you can really use I think it's 1.5 to 2.5 in there for 4 gallons of water. That's what I did. And I only did the 2.5 because they were pretty tall, especially the stiltgrass that I wanted to knock down. It doesn't take a lot to kill stiltgrass, even like glyphosate. I've heard people use very low trace of glyphosate and it'll leave everything else. The stiltgrass doesn't take a lot to knock it back. But because over at the end of the yard over there, it's like 3 feet tall in some spots, maybe even taller, I didn't know how that would take. So I used a higher concentration, which isn't too high. It's not like I used too much. But I just was on the higher end of that average scale, I guess you could say. So 2.5 ounces, very little. So a bottle of clethodim, 1 gallon of clethodim is going to last you a long time. I mean, that alone is like 60 sprays-ish if you're doing like 2 ounces, So 60 times 4 gallons, right? So 60 4-gallon backpack sprayers. That's a lot. So that's nice. Herbicides are expensive, but I mean, when you do it that way, it's pretty cheap. You can see here too, I had sprayed different, the stiltgrass, but in here, this is the one spot. We'll see how this takes, right, with that seed mix, because the seed mix prefers more sun, but this doesn't get a whole lot of sun. One thing too is that evening sun or afternoon sun is pretty harsh. Some good advice I've heard, everyone says like full sun, like 6 to 8 hours a day. So I don't even remember the number because I don't remember. But a good rule of thumb I've heard is if it's like 3 or 4 hours of afternoon sun, then consider that full sun, just because that afternoon sun is so harsh. So here's the book, Weeds of the Northeast, and it's incredible. But I want to show you here, Ty's working on this.
Come here right now.
What are you doing?
Get food for the animals.
This pear tree's just loaded, and the deer are there every day. Ty had a plan to make a trap for the deer. But now he just wants to feed them, so he's not going to try to trap them anymore. He was trying to build a trap the other day. Oh, you're making a trap?
Yes.
Okay, he's still doing that. But he needs more pears to make the trap. So this is the book, and thankfully the yard's wet here. The yard's not wet, so we can just set this down. But it is amazing. And it has a guide in here that you can walk through to help you identify. So it's vegetative key to the weeds, okay? And it's got all of these different things to walk you through on what it could be. Then when you start getting to these, which, wow, right here, flat sedge. We have a lot of flat sedge, actually. And this right here is right here. I just kind of flipped to that by chance. But this thing, so it'll tell you all about it, right? For each plant, different names it's known as. Rice field flat sedge, the general description of it, how to propagate it, or how it propagates, I should say. What seedlings are like, the mature plant, roots and underground structures, flowers and fruit, post-sensonance. Oh boy. I probably butchered that. That's all right. The habitat and its distribution and other species like it. So I really like, though, is it always has a picture of the seedling, which is very important because seedlings are, they're totally different. And then it has pictures of the seeds, pictures of it mature, and I mean, it's just loaded with species. There's 4 authors of this, and they did an incredible job. And they'll also do different illustrations like this to show you different species of that one. So like this one, for example, there's a few different species that are pretty similar, but you can tell right here by looking at these. So I highly recommend this book. And it's got everything, right? It's got a lot of invasives, a lot of natives, not just like a weed, like something small like this, right? They got trees, bushes, all sorts of things. Very cool book. Well, that's all we got. You can really see the difference here. I mean, the kind of green over there and brown over here. But I think that's all for today. The point of today's video was just to show you the step 1. If you were to go with the clethodim or herbicide, you could do the same thing with glyphosate as well if you wanted to kill everything. A lot of yards don't really have sedges like this. My front yard does not. Or maybe they have a few, but not much. And it's also because we have a very wet yard. So you may not even have sedges. You may not have things you want to keep. And that's where glyphosate could work too. So keep that in mind. But this was, all I want to do is show you how you start this. I've showed you how to do it with cardboard. Here's how you do it with herbicide. Next up on this series would be seeding. We're going to seed this fall. In probably like after we'll be sowing after the first hard freeze, I think. So it'll be a while, but it comes fast. So that'll be next up, and then we'll just show you how we maintain this over the next year. I'm planning to do a lot of videos on these and just keep you informed on what I'm doing and how you can do it too. If you have any questions, let me know. And other than that, I think we will see you on the next video. Also, check this book out. Awesome. I'll put a link to it in the description and a pinned comment if you're interested in it, because it's very good. The 4 authors I mentioned, they crushed this book. I love it. It's a powerhouse of a book. Everyone should have it if you're into these things.